Hello, and welcome to the WorldCraft Club podcast. We are committed to trying to help you build worlds that will keep your audience coming back time and time again. And so today I am here talking with Cael Amari. He has a uh, Kickstarter, a successful Kickstarter, as of earlier today, I believe, for a miniature tabletop game called Defiance, Duel in the Black Keep, which is based off of the same world as his novel Oathbound. You'll be able to find links to both of those things below. But Kale, how are you doing?
I'm trending upwards. Life is good.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Life's good. I'm I've been real busy, working on like too many new projects. Probably I need to finish a few of them, and then focus on the bigger ones. But yeah, life's good.
Yeah, that's the hard part is not coming up with projects to work on, but seeing at least one of them through so you have something to show to the world. So just to start off, the Defiance game is kind of based off of a scene in the book Oathbound, and so I just I the book says an Age of Shadows novel. That's what the cover reads. And so is that what you call the setting? Is that what you call the world that you're playing in here?
Yes, that is. I'm sure that will get clearer as I go along. I'm planning to do. I've got three more books outlined, and I'm aiming for seven total in that setting, to like fully flesh out the world that I'm trying to build there. But yeah, we're calling it Age of Shadows for now.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, it's a neat world. The Oathbound and Defiance are set in a kind of very Norse type setting, but there's a lot that hints at the world being broader than that. So, um, we're going to get to see more of the world as the books go on. Is that the plan?
Oh yes, yeah. The first three that I'm writing are pretty well set in the Norse, Anglo-Saxon, that kind of culture and part of the world. But book four, or at least, I'm not fully in control of what order the books happen. I have
Okay.
kind of an idea of how they're working, but because I'm writing each of them as a standalone rather
Hmm.
than as a series or a sequential story, I'm pretty sure book four is going to be the first departure from the Old Norse setting. But no promises, and nobody hold me to that because I
Yeah.
might. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. The stories have a life of their own if you let them,
Yep, I try to
for
let them too.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And to that end, so why don't you give us just kind of an idea of what your approach is to world building? Now, I know you wrote an article about where this Age of Shadows, where Defiance came from, it, or I'm sorry, the Oath Bound, and I hope I haven't called it Oath Sworn at any point here. I think I did that earlier, but so Oath
It
Bound.
happens.
Um, but I know you wrote an article that we'll have a link to that as well about where this kind of came from. But why don't you give us like just kind of a brief overview of what that's all about?
So, I wasn't planning to write a novel. I mean, okay, let me qualify that. I was planning to write a novel. I've always planned to write novels. I just wasn't planning to write that novel.
Hmm.
Basically, what happened was I was running a writers group at a game store. Which, if you've ever if you've ever struggled to find a place to run a writers group, find a game store and find the night of the week that it's crickets in there, and then Sometimes, if you find the right game store owner, they'll just be like, "Yes, please come on in. We just want people in the store. It makes it feel alive." So I was running a writers group in the game store, and uh, I I like to create based on what's around me, and I came up with this idea of, hey, let's use Magic the Gathering card packs as story prompts. And so uh, I got one and popped it open. It was Kaldheim. If there's any Magic the Gathering nerds out there, I don't play anymore. I sold everything
Yeah.
because it, it was a little bit all consuming, and I wanted to pour more of my creative energy into my own stuff. But it was really fun while
Well,
I played it.
if
And
no one else, at least our editor will know where you're coming from there.
okay,
So
cool. So I popped open this booster pack of trading cards, and on each Magic the Gathering card, there is typically beautiful artwork and
Mhm.
just a little bit of text. Not a lot, just a little bit of text. So they're perfect story prompts. So I popped it open, and I had this really interesting combination of cards. And for the prompt, we were trying to just write really quick flash fiction, like 1,000 words and your story is done. And I started writing, and I didn't even touch what I was trying to do. I gathered some characters, and I was like, ooh, I kind of like this. I think I'm going to take this a little bit differently than the way I've been writing other books. And so I started writing it, and it got longer and longer and longer. And then I had a short story. And
Mhm.
then people liked the short stories, so I was like, okay, I guess I got to keep writing this thing, and it turned into it's about 70,000 words long novel, which word count wise, I know not everybody speaks word count. That's kind of a weird thing that comes from you know what I mean. uh,
Yeah, it comes from writing,
Let me
not really
see.
from reading.
Right, pages. It is. Let's see. 259 pages long. In the This is the 6x9 trade paperback edition. So yeah, it kind of got away from me.
That'll
I
happen.
definitely didn't expect. Yeah, right. If
Yeah.
you let it, just like we were talking, if you let it, the story it'll go. And I let it. I could have stopped with the short story. It's a satisfying short story, but there was more. There was more to tell. World building wise, once upon a time, I went to a writers' conference, and I got to listen to an author well, it was a week long one, and I was in her group. Her name was Kathleen Dewey. She's passed away since, but she taught me this really fascinating way of world building where you don't do it ahead of time. You just kind of step into the world and let the world reveal itself to you through the eyes of the characters, which is not always it's not always the best way to do it depending on the project that you're working on,
Mhm.
as I've learned. But for this one, it was perfect, because there were things that showed up in the first part, like the first 25% of the book, that I only found out what they were, 50%, 65%, 75% of the way through the experience of writing it, which is really scary and really fun.
Yeah,
So,
but that's what your second pass is for. That's why you write a first draft. Is the way I would look at it, because yeah, that my experience has been very similar. Where you know I think we can get caught up in, okay, do I have this whole world figured out? And it's like really the only way you're going to know. I know in the context of the WorldCraft Club, we like to call it like storying your way through a world, figuring out if it works, kind of just taking it for a test run, doing a flash fiction or doing a short story within the world you're planning to do, and seeing where it goes. I mean, the first novel that I wrote, like novel length finished product that I wrote, I was just trying to story through a world that, was not really going to be a book. So I also kind of accidentally wrote a novel once. But yeah, I found that incredibly rewarding. Yes, I had to go back on a second pass and fix a lot of things, like make a lot of things all match, but I do think it's a great approach. Um, I think it gives you the freedom to actually write something instead of needing to know about something before you speak on it at all.
100%.
Yeah. So you obviously, that card that inspired Oathbound. Obviously, like it gave you a lot of fodder for what you wanted to do. Do you feel like did the tone of the final project come right out of the feeling you had when you first looked at that card, or did it grow beyond that?
That's a good question. So, I let's see. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but I actually have it. Oh yeah, you can't see it. But this
No,
is
but
the card, right? No.
right.
Um,
What's the like name of on the card? Like what's the
oh
title or?
yeah. So if you want to look it up for our listeners at home, the name of the card is Return Upon the Tide, and I hope I don't mess her name up, but it's by Martina Fakova,
Okay.
Fackova.
Yeah. And
And
I've
it's this
never been a
really
Magic
compelling
player.
image. Hmm.
Yeah, but the art is great. A friend like lent me a deck so that they could beat me. And uh, one time, and so I played it like once, and I was like, apparently all my cards are terrible, or I don't know how to use them. But these are really cool pictures. Like I don't. But yes, so we'll see if AJ. I'll put him on the spot and ask if he can maybe throw an image of the card up, superimpose that. Maybe he can do that for us. But yeah, it's a really evocative picture. I didn't see it when you held it up. I'm not being sarcastic.
Oh,
I had seen it in your
no.
in your article before.
Oh,
So it is a really
yeah.
cool. It's a really cool image. Very very evocative. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go on. So you,
Uh,
you opened the pack and saw that card. So.
so it's this really compelling image of two women uh, taking a boat out or bringing a boat in. And in the boat is a third woman who looks like she's dead. Now,
Mhm.
somebody who knows magic lore, Magic the Gathering lore better than I do, might be able to tell me exactly what's happening in that picture. But that's not the point of what I was doing. The
Right.
point was this is a really evocative image. I think this is a good starting place, or maybe a good seed to start growing a story from. And so
Mhm.
I went in, just started writing the prose of what it was like. What's it like to wade out into a river with a boat with someone who's dead in it, and why are we walking into this river, and what's the water feel like as it's pulling at your legs, and who's watching from the shore, and what are they doing. And as I started writing that, this world's just kind of leapt into focus,
Mhm.
and most of that didn't change actually from the first draft to the second draft. It
Mhm.
pretty much just stayed the same, which was really interesting. And it, I would say, in reference to your question of if the tone stayed the same, I think it did. I think the tone of the book, uh, it 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 matched that original feeling. The book itself is. I had a friend who's also an author describe it as grim cozy, which is a really it's a fun term. I don't know if she came up with it, but it's not necessarily grim dark.
Right.
It's very
Yeah.
grim. There's some awful things that happen to people you care about in the book, but it doesn't leave you. The book itself doesn't leave you feeling hopeless
Yeah.
about
Because
life or nihilistic. So
yes, and I
I
think
think I think we
nihilism and hopelessness are like defining of grimdark. So
yes.
I don't know if cozy is the is the I don't know if I put cozy on there as a modifier. Having read the book, there wasn't a lot of cozy. I mean, it's cold the whole time.
It's
Everything is
cold the
cold,
whole
and
time.
I despise being cold. Like we are just here in Pennsylvania, we are just trying to get out of the winter. Like it's April, and once March is gone, I'm always like it should be warm, but it's still like in the 30s sometimes in the morning. It's terrible. So that's how I
You
felt
felt
reading
that.
the book. I'm just like I'm cold. Like I just so yeah, I got that. The environment helped back up the overall feel, and it all the elements really played nicely together in that way. Um,
Thank you.
but yeah, you definitely I like that idea of grim cozy to a point, but I almost like there's got to be I know it's somewhere there's something that's like there's a scale, and I forget what everything on it is except Grimdark, which is like the last one. But like the top of it's basically like My Little Pony, like nothing's ever really wrong, and if something's wrong, it gets fixed. And then down all the way at the bottom is Grimdark, where it's like it's bad, it's all bad, it's going to be bad. Um,
Forever.
yeah, and so like I felt like you were just kind of on the rung above grim dark, where it's like, oh, it's grim, it's dark, but like you said, it's not nihilistic. Like there's hope and there's real beauty in the characters and in their arcs. Um, I'm desperately trying not to spoil anything because I think
Thank you.
folks should go read it
It's
for
a really
themselves.
hard
But
book to
it's
talk about.
it is, it really is, yeah. But yeah, I was hooked after the first interaction with the undead because I thought the way that you wrote them in particular was really really on point. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
But yeah, okay, so that's enough gushing from me. Though go read the book; it's good.
I want to
Um,
say one more thing about the
oh
darkness of
sure,
the setting. Um, and this is kind of a world building thing too. Uh, I find it's a lot easier to. There's certain themes that are like the emotional core of the book that show up a lot better in the really dark setting. And without spoiling too much, it's it is really easy to be a good human when you are fed and you're warm
Mm,
and you've had enough to drink and you have friends and you find out whether or not you're a good human or at least a strong human or whatever you however you want to frame that when you're hungry and you're really
yeah,
cold and you're injured and you might um, you might die soon and that uh, the themes of the book I I kind of needed to write them in that dark setting because otherwise, you know, if it's My Little Pony world, it's really easy to be nice in My Little
yeah.
Pony world.
Yeah.
It's kind of a
They still
requirement,
managed to learn
you
a
know.
lot of lessons about friendship, but yes,
Sure, yeah,
definitely a lot easier. Um, but but yeah, I think that's really true. I was actually just read something the other day where someone said, you know, it's not that hunger makes you angry; it's that when you're hungry, that anger in you is revealed, and nothing has ever
yep.
stepped on my toes more. Um, but yeah, That's a really good point. You really did put the characters, and that's what you're supposed to do as a writer, right? Is like you're supposed to torture your characters. You're supposed to have a clear idea of what they want and do everything in your power to keep them from getting it. And yeah, I think that the characters in Oathbound um, definitely have to go through some stuff. And I agree
It's some
that
bad stuff, man.
yeah, the setting that you put them in um, really does help kind of put that in sharp relief. Um, but so what you've done here with your Kickstarter, which as I think I already mentioned, is now successfully funded. So congratulations on that. Um, is you took a scene from the book and you translated it over to the tabletop, so as to be a solo miniatures game. And so I just wanted to ask, like, what was that process like? How did you stay true to the story while translating to another medium?
Mm. So I preface, I love miniatures games. I think tabletop games are fantastic. And probably part of that is because I'm a writer and an artist and I spend so much time by myself. So when I play a game, I would like to play it at a table with other people when possible. So
Mhm.
I just love the medium. I love there's like emergent story that comes out in a miniatures game, in lots of different miniatures games. And the challenge, it was I forget if it was like 2 months or so. I'll have to look that up later. It was a one box war game challenge. So the challenge was to write a game that works, that you can play the whole thing with one box of miniatures. And I had been really wanting to learn Blender. I dipped a little bit into Blender and the process of sculpting, and I thought, okay, what if I used this challenge to not only teach myself miniatures game writing, which I'd done a little bit of but never finished anything, and
Mhm.
Blender, because I guess I like things to be hard. I guess that's just how I roll. And so what I did was I thought that this particular section of the book, and it's not long. It's like 2, 3 pages, maybe. No, I'm not remembering that because I've seen I've seen the manuscript version. It might be more than that. Feel free to fact check me, but it's this one scene with basically two characters who it is life or death. She's sneaking through a ruined keep and trying very hard not to make any noise because the moment she does, this other character who is a humongous giant is just going to smash her all over the paving stones. And so when transporting that scene into a game, there's a couple of things that I had to do. A lot of it was just removing most of the lore, because in the book, when we get to that scene, we have 20,000 words, maybe 30,000 words of
Mhm.
prose telling you all the reasons why we have converged onto this spot. And so that got cut down to like a paragraph. Just here's what's happening, here's the stakes, here's your motivation and your tools, and figure out this puzzle. The other thing that was really interesting and challenging was because I was sculpting the models as well, I needed to have a really I had to have a solid idea what these characters look like because I'm actually going to be making them in 3 dimensions. And that was, I think that was really great for me as a writer, because when you're a writer, you can just say, I can suggest things with a sentence, and the reader builds the rest in their head, which is one thing I love about prose. In the book, I never tell you what color the main character's hair is. I never tell you how long it is. Uh, I there's like one or two pieces of clothing that I mention because they're important, and the rest the reader builds it in the awesome graphics engine that is the human mind. But when you're talking about a tabletop game, I'm like, oh, I
Right.
kind of need to know how the shoes lace up. I need to know exactly where the cut of the clothing falls. I need to know like how long is the hair because I'm actually going to be representing it in 3 dimensions. And so that was I thought it was a fun challenge. I love I love things like uh, prop building for film. I love set building for
Hmm.
film. I like all that. I'm fascinated by it. I've never worked in film. Scratch that. I did one day as an extra. It sucked. I'm never doing that again. Don't do it, kids. Don't do it. Actually, being an extra sucks. It was really educational though, and they paid me $50 for a whole day of work, and it was the best $50 that I ever earned, and knew I didn't want to work in cinema. So yeah, there were a bunch of little challenges like that. Like I've suggested a lot of things with the pros about the giant. How do I translate that into something 3 dimensional
Hmm.
that looks scary? Because it's really easy to make derpy looking miniatures that don't have the feel of what you're trying to
Yeah.
say. So, and then game mechanics wise, with a game, there are you have to create multiple outcomes that work, right? In a novel, I'm going to give you one outcome. As the reader, it's a highly curated experience. You're gonna go from point A to point B, and you're not really, as the reader, you're not really making choices as you go along, and that's fine. We like that as readers. When it comes to tabletop game, if I if I present you with a game where you don't get to make any choices and you're going to follow an exact script to get to an exact place,
Hmm.
that's super obviously not going to work and nobody's going to want to play that game. So
Right.
the other thing that I got to do was create like here's multiple outcomes for this scenario that couldn't happen in the novel because I'm not writing a choose your own adventure book, right?
Hmm.
And then there was one more thing that was really interesting about the transition, but I can't remember what it was. So if I remember all, and it's timely, I'll tell you.
Okay. Yeah. Um, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting how things, different medium kind of demand different treatments. You'll never really have a perfect adaptation like book to film's kind of the classic, because there's just going to be things that aren't going to work, the things that don't translate directly from one medium to another. And I think that's why we have the word adaptation. You're not just making a copy of something, you are adapting it. So yeah, I think there's different approaches to things with games, like a kind of as far as like the threat level of the enemy, right? So like you're in Defiance, you're looking at, if you get hit, you're dead. Is that correct? Like there's just
Oh
basically
yeah,
like you've got one
if you
HP.
get touched,
Yeah.
it don't
Um,
even the giant doesn't have to do anything. If its base connects with the
right.
miniature
Okay.
of your toast, it's over. GG.
Hmm.
Which
Right, because he's a like 10-foot brute, and you're playing as a human character. And
yep,
so this
a
is
really
not
human character.
right. Not it's not Aragorn fighting a troll. This is if I was thrown into a room with a giant, except the character in question actually has training on how to use like swords and spears and stuff. So they'd probably do better than me. But yeah, it's like, it just, the stakes are different. It's not a, and that brings out, what we saw, what you read in the book, just that idea of like, this is life or death. I don't get two chances at this. Um, and so I think that does translate, but it's a matter of how do you make pushing around, resin characters and rolling dice. How do you make that feel like the prose that you had written? So it's an
Hmm.
interesting challenge. Um, yeah.
I
So you've
remember what
got,
that thing was.
well, okay, go ahead.
I remembered, if that's okay. Uh,
Go ahead. Yeah.
I simplified a lot of things, um,
Mhm.
not just not just like the set that it's happening on, like the board and the pieces, but I there were elements that are in the book that I just removed completely, and I'm not gonna go into too much more of that because that's spoiler territory. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
there are things in about that confrontation in the book that just don't work for a 30-minute tabletop game, and they got cut. And I I think it worked because, like you were saying, you were talking about that experience of that threat level of the danger. I wanted more for you to have the emotional experience rather than have all the
Hmm.
details factually, you know, biblically accurate to the book.
Right. The experience that we call people that are looking at our worlds visitants is like the term that we've fallen into here. And so your experience as a visitant in reading versus when playing a game is different. But trying to trying to still take whatever that core concept is, whatever that like vibe or like feeling is that makes that scene, um, keeping that alive. That's the key part, more so than every detail.
I think so.
So you've got Defiance coming out here shortly. You've got um, Oathbound and a couple of other books, a few other books published. So do you just want to give us a quick rundown here on what else you've got going on? What are some upcoming things? What are some worlds you're excited about?
Sure. So let's see. In the realm of books, of things that I'm writing, I have two follow up stories to Oathbound, um,
Mhm.
that are set in that same part of the world. And then there's going to be another one that's set a lot further to the south and dealing with some really different things that I'm really excited to play with, but I'm holding off on jumping into that one too early because I do like finishing things. I think finishing things
Yeah.
as a novelist or any kind of creative is a superpower, and I'm trying desperately to level up that superpower as much as I can because the the perfect book that you haven't written is nothing compared to the imperfect book that you got to the end of. So anyway, finishing is a big deal. Uh, Games wise, we've got Defiance. It's at this point it's fully funded. The Kickstarter wraps up. I guess at time of recording, 10 more days. I think. Pretty sure. I'm not
Okay.
going to go check it right now. When that's done and I've got that totally out of the gate and it's all in the hands of the happy players, uh, I have another game idea that's set in the same setting that
Okay.
will it'll give me a really fun opportunity to start sculpting other things in that world characters and monsters. So I'm really excited about that. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's in super early development. But I'll be sculpting those things and rolling them out as over the course of the next year or so. I've also got other projects I'm working on. I have a serial novel that I've been working on through my Substack, and it is completely different in setting than Oathbound. It's kind of like a space. It's not in space. I shouldn't give away spoilers like that. Well, it was. I was originally going to write it to be in space, and then as I was free writing it, I realized, oh, they're not in space. This is going to be a totally weird, out of left field kind of book. So the comp titles that I've come up with so far, and I won't know exactly what to compare it to until I'm finished, usually. But this one's it's in that realm of like weird fantasy where you're not sure if it's science fiction or fantasy, and people will fight over it. I know this is going to be one of those where if anybody cares and they read it, they'll be like, no, 100% this is science fiction. And somebody else will be like, no, here's all the reasons you're stupid and wrong and it's fantasy. And someone else will pipe up and be like, actually, no, it's cyberpunk. Shut up, both of you. And I'm just breaking all the rules because I can do that. I'm an artist. So it's bizarre and awesome, and I wish I could articulate that a little more clearly. And I probably will once I've written it further. But it's got a lot of the same tone as Oathbound. It's two rungs
Interesting.
above Grimdark, maybe
Okay.
one rung above Grimdark. So that's exciting. And
Yeah.
then
So are you getting feedback from then your subscribers as the chapters are coming out? Is that kind of the model that you're using on that?
a little bit of feedback from subscribers. It's been stalled out for a little bit here. I'm getting back into it. Uh, there there were a couple things that came up. There was a few personal life things that showed up,
Mhm.
and and then there was trying to finish up this Kickstarter, and that's taken way more time than I thought it would. I,
Yeah.
in my foolish arrogance, was like, "Oh, I should be able to get a Kickstarter ready in a month," and I learned. But it's I and and see, this is where I think I get to talk world building a little bit more. I've been realizing in the process of writing this particular novel, which is titled The Chronicles of Alluvion, Book One, The Endless Deep. I am writing, and I thought it was going to be a shorter book. And then as I've been going, I've realized this isn't short. This is an epic. This is going to be like the size of Dune, as far as novels go, and and
But
so
significantly
I've
wetter from the sounds of it.
significant, yes, significantly slimier and darker and unpleasant. So what I've realized is the strategies that worked with Oathbound, where I walked in and explored it, they work perfectly for Oathbound. It's a world that is really grounded in our reality. Snow crunches, bones break, trees grow. Like that's it feels like a real place. And in order to get that same feeling of verisimilitude of the world in the endless deep feeling like a real place, I can't just make it up as I go. I have to do some hard world building in order for you to walk into that place and feel like, oh, this is a really weird place, but it's still a real place. And so, which, that's I didn't know when I started it. So I've been considering switching out as far as what I'm publishing serially and working
Hmm.
more in the Oathbound world, uh, because those books tend to be shorter. They tend to be a little bit there's still a lot of world building that goes into it, but it's not the
Sure.
same level of sheer labor
Yeah.
to make it happen, to make it believable. So honestly, that's kind of up in the air right now. I'm finishing up two more projects. Oh, I also have another novel that I'm about to publish. I've got cover art commissioned. It's called Blade Talker. It's set in a totally different world than Oathbound, and I'm pretty excited actually about that one.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah. I saw
yeah.
the kind of the
So
elevator pitch for it, and so it looks like a good time. Um, and so that'll be interesting to see what comes of all that. All right. Are there any other places you want to point us to? We'll have links down below for people, but just where can we find you?
if you want to find me, uh, I've my Substack is caeljamari.substack.com. That's where I publish things about works in progress, what I'm doing next, kind of the big picture. Uh, I'll post photos of things that I'm sculpting to go in different worlds. The other place is my web store, www.bardswordpress.com, bardswordpress.com. And that's where anything that's finished and published and available as ebook or in print, you can go there and purchase it. Um, those are kind of the main two right now. I'm looking at starting up YouTube. I haven't quite pulled the trigger on that, but I feel like there's a lot of fun opportunities for creation in making videos. I made the video for the Defiance Kickstarter, and I
Okay.
had way more fun with that than I thought I would. And so I've been thinking, oh, I could add that in. I'm only writing like four novels and sculpting dozens of sculpt and writing a game. I could throw video editing in there too. So um, I think we're gonna go that way. I think I'm gonna have a YouTube channel, and that um, I don't know what the name of that channel is, but if I pull the trigger on that, I'll send you a link, and maybe you can put it in the show notes or something.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. For sure. Okay. Well, Cael Amari, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. This was great. We'll hope to have you back sometime if you wanna come back. So uh, just thanks for answering my questions.
Thanks for having me. Take care, Dave.
You too. Thank you.